There is certainly evidence. We have, if you look at one of the aspects of European food supplement laws that affect the maximum levels of vitamins and minerals, we are questioning the entire scientific basis that has been used by the authorities to develop these maximum permitted levels. We've got an official petition in the European Parliament that's been accepted by the European Parliament's Petitions Committee, and all of the issues that we raise in our petition are now being investigated by the Petitions Committee. They're asking questions of the European Commission. Now, if they're not answered satisfactorily, and the European Parliament is not satisfied, it can potentially block legislation. Of course, it depends ultimately how strongly these MEPs are willing to maintain their positions, and there's a lot of back chat that occurs behind the scenes. But at the moment, there are groups of European parliamentarians who really are relatively principled. They do feel strongly about some of these issues. And for example, our petition, we've got another one on electromagnetic radiation, the risks of mobile phones and EMF. That also has been accepted by the European Parliament. So we have some hope, and I think rather than people putting their head in the sand, we should use these vestiges of the democratic process before they completely and utterly fall apart.
So if people want to get involved with your campaign for their freedom, they should go to your website.
Go to our website. We've got a Get Involved page. We've got all the directions of how people can find out who their MEP is. You'll see that we're running 10 campaigns ranging from traditional herbal products, the issues that Dounne is facing, through to EMF, through to GM, through to vaccines.
It's a lot of stuff, isn't it? A lot of things to be worried about.
Well, we actually are fairly well known for having, as much as we possibly can, a positive spin and a solutions-based approach to all of these issues. One of the things that often happens in terms of controversial issues is people like to report a doomsday scenario. They also often get their facts wrong, and we have a number of cases now where these issues are not being taken up by politicians because they say, that's the conspiracy theorists on about this, we've looked at it closely, they've got all their facts wrong. What we attempt to do is get our facts right so that you can find what the real issues are. And I can tell you, you don't need to distort reality. It's bad enough. But in many cases, there are very clear solutions, and those are the solutions we're working with.
So you think you might have a result in Europe at least?
We're working, we've just taken 3 legal actions against the Food and Drug Administration in the United States. We're not particularly popular with these regulators.
Did you win?
No, we've just started the actions.
Okay.
The case that we brought in the European Court, the directive was not overturned. In retrospect, it was probably the best thing because they would have started from scratch and medicalised everything. And actually, the European Court, in its ruling, provided some clarification that has been very, very useful. And one of the things it's really demonstrated is that natural sources of vitamins and minerals outside the scope of this harmonised directive.
Okay, but how do you fund all these actions? It must be expensive taking the FDA to court. And
yeah, we raise money from people donating to our campaign. You'll see for that reason the donate button on our website is rather prominent. We are absolutely reliant on donations, and we're a completely independent organisation. We do have some companies that support us. If you go to our support base, you'll see them listed there. And I
imagine none of them are big pharma, or
not one of them, no. And we in fact have a specific principle that prevents large pharmaceutical companies funding.
Well, it would muddy the waters a bit. Dawn obviously wants to say something here.
Well, likewise, I'm talking about my campaign, which we work together as a team, because part and parcel of our work is to try and get this message out to people.
I've got to say, though, that in our green room was the first time you ever met each other, wasn't it?
Yes, it's the first time we met. We've been emailing, we've been phoning, and working together on that basis.
3 or 4 months ago, Dawn came to us saying she had the problem with the MHRA, so we've been assisting her as best we can. Yeah.
But my campaign is primarily to raise awareness to the entire nation, to let them know what's happening to the ordinary person, how it will affect yourself, your family, and generations to come, and to come together by joining hands to make sure that government does protect our health. So on that score, we are also a non-profit making organization, a voluntary organization, simply because we believe that people have the right to choose. They don't have to believe anything we say. But if you think that your life or your health is going to be jeopardized by these laws that is coming in, or that the governments are not taking your health seriously, then all we say is to join hands in health. Send us the hand tracings and your message of natural health to the prime ministers, so that we can then, the prime ministers, so we can then take it to them and hopefully have it all re-regulated in our favor.
I suppose really, if you believe in choice, free choice,
yeah,
then if you had that free choice, you could decide you could take allopathic drugs and have things like chemotherapy and radiation and allopathic medicines and.
But the truth needs to be told. And why are they afraid of speaking the truth openly? We can't speak the truth. You just feel as though you're being muscled. And as such, I don't see anything wrong in everyone being open and clear.
Well, I suppose you've got to ask the question, qui bono, who benefits?
I know.
And maybe look at how they benefit and why they benefit in this way, because it seems like everything's playing into the hands of a few.
A very small few.
A few very small, well, large companies, but a few of them.
That's right at the heart of why we see some good news with, say, African nations starting to reject GM.
Yeah.
And, obviously they accepted the colonists in there, they had their lives destroyed, they got economic systems thrust upon them that have forced them to become dependent on the so-called First World. And I believe that GM is one step too far.
Yeah.
And it is, if you look at the requirements to develop some self-sufficiency in terms of agricultural systems and therefore food, there is barely a serious scientist on this planet that would say GM, in terms of making a farmer reliant on the seeds of half a dozen companies in the world, is a good idea. And in fact, the UN...
Well, it's not just that. It's not just he's got to buy new seeds every year because he can't, because they have these terminator genes in them, don't they? So
yeah,
you can't plant last year's crop. Not only do you have to buy the seeds every year at presumably an inflated price, but you have to buy their pesticide,
yeah, for the
which they're immune to, which will kill everything else.
The terminator genes as yet are not commercially released, but as it happens, most of the cultivars don't survive and you can't raise seed from them anyway.
And
it's illegal to do so. So in effect they have, but they can do a lot more with switching on, switching off genes. But there was a very big report funded, $12 million worth of funding went to 400 scientists from 60 countries to look at the way in which we can feed this burgeoning population. And the conclusion of the report, released in April 2008, 2,500 pages worth, is that GM is not part of the solution. Despite that, Gordon Brown and a number of European leaders are promoting it as the solution to world hunger. And there's no evidence to suggest it's part of the solution.
Well, on that shocking note, that is all we've got time for. Thank you to everyone for watching our special 2-hour show, and for those who texted. And thanks to my very special guests, Daunne Alexander, MBE, and Dr. Robert Verkerk. If you want more information, please visit www.anhcampaign.org and www.joininghandsinhealth.com. Next week, we'll be back with yet another exciting show that might even change your life. Until then, remember, they're watching you, watching us, watching them. Cheerio.